Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. They're all big, but we're back on Zoom because our guest today is someone who's so important we don't want her to become ill from being exposed to us. It's our acting mayor, Julia Glanz. Welcome, Julia.
Well, thanks, Greg, and I appreciate the warm welcome there. I don't know if that's necessary, but thank you.
Well, it's true. If you were to become ill, I don't know what the city would do. So we want to make sure we protect your health, as we would protect everyone's health. But you are certainly, as they say, a essential employee.
I appreciate it.
So are you having any fun? What's this like for you? Stepping in, our mayor is away for at least 10 months. You're the acting mayor and the city administrator. How's this going for you?
Well, it's been interesting. I guess this is the third full week. Certainly been interesting. Global pandemic and really important conversations on race that we're having locally as well. So certainly the thick of it to be thrown into, but I am having fun, learning a ton, and I think we're doing some really good work.
You're doing that 5 o'clock broadcast that the mayor was doing on social media. It's on Facebook Live, and that seems to be going well. You seem, and I have to say, since the beginning, you seem to have really relaxed in this thing. You seem much more comfortable with yourself and your viewers and your answers.
Yeah, I think I have hit my stride a little bit on it, and I've certainly gotten more comfortable with it, and it's fun. And trying to make it my own, and I introduce the creatures in my house every once in a while, and folks seem to like that. And trying to keep it informational and sort of give folks an opportunity to showcase the important work that they're doing right now related to COVID-19. So trying to spotlight an organization once a week or twice a week to share the good work that is going on in this community right now in this challenging time. And it's funny because early on in the pandemic, Bloomberg Philanthropies and the Bloomberg organization put together a workshop that had gone on for 10 weeks for mayors, and I watched and participated and took lots of notes, and one of the things was you've got to communicate with your people regularly. They've got to know when to expect it, and you've got to keep it up. And so I brought this forward, this idea, and I was like, Mayor, I think we've got to do this thing on Facebook every night. And he took it to be literally every night, including weekends. But it's just funny how now it's fallen back on me, and it was my brainchild. I'm just like that.
Well, in the beginning, it just seemed like you were making one of those hostage videos, but now you really seem to be, like you said, you've hit your stride and getting good reaction, and I enjoy it. And as always, I learned something from these things. And just like yesterday, I made some notes about some things I learned from your call yesterday, and one was an important one and a sad one, I guess. We had another firefighter test positive for the COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went a couple weeks without any new positives. I think I think this is number 8, if I'm not mistaken. So they're dealing with it every day. They're dealing with patients that have the potential to have it, and we certainly get informed when we do carry positive patients, and just that extra exposure. You and I are much less likely. Just going to the grocery store or whatever minor things that we're doing right now. But our firefighters and EMTs and paramedics are in the thick of it. And, it's not easy. And even that PPE is not foolproof. So that's why it's important to stay home when you can. But no one has been, really sick, which has been really good. Most of them are in good health. And granted, that's not all that matters. That contributes to how sick you get, but it certainly helps. So the most recent one is home and resting, and we sent some others to get tested that had really close exposure by working together. So we'll see in the next couple of days if we get any more.
Yeah, it certainly hampers operations, and you have to really give a lot of credit to our first responders. People, you talk about them all the time, but then you hear stories like this and you realize they really are on the front lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why it's so important that when they're not in the ambulance, and because obviously they're all geared up, but our police and fire and everybody that's out there working, it's important to wear masks, to change up our operations of how we meet, where we meet, frequency and things like that, and just taking every safety precaution that we can, because we need these folks to show up and we need them to be healthy.
Another thing you did in your call yesterday, and I get all these news releases and hear gossip about CARES Act funding that's available, and we weren't able to get some money, so other groups are stepping up now, and you've got people that are trying to help, like SWED and Greater Salisbury, the Chamber. And you actually simplified it for me yesterday in terms of what money is coming out available right now. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so Wycomico County sort of got two buckets of money. $9 million for health-related expense reimbursements, which the city will get some of that at some point because our fire and police are out there doing things in other departments. But the part that impacts the public is $9 million, and the county has decided that should go to businesses. Different communities are handling that money differently, but the way that SWED is taking the lead, Salisbury-Wycomico Economic Development, excuse me, it's a long name. Yeah. They are leading the charge and managing that system. We wanted to make sure that it was easy and wouldn't hit any major roadblocks like some of our federal government programs and some of our state programs. So Dave Ryan is backfilling some of the applicants that didn't get money from the state program. So there's approximately 150 of those folks that will get upwards of $10,000. And then that's sort of being managed this week. And apparently next week, it'll be an open call to other businesses in the county, I think with 25 employees or less, that can apply for up to $10,000 of expenses if they've been affected by COVID.
So people should go to swed.org if they've got questions. Reach out to Dave Ryan. He's got a really good assistant there, and they do great work. And they're there to help. That's what they're there for.
Yep.
The other news you brought out yesterday, which of course is very vital in my life, it's all that really matters. The traffic circle is in the final stages, and we're gonna have like a little celebration for this.
We will. I think we all deserve a little celebration. Yeah. So construction is in its final stages. The update that I read last week was that the week of July 3rd or 4th, or I guess, yeah, it's supposed to finish before July 4th. So, it's pouring outside right now, so weather can certainly impact that. But I think by the second week in July, we'll all be going around in circles, and we'll have a ribbon cutting or a dedication ceremony in the middle of July at some point. We have to, we want to make sure the site's looking good, and we're going to install some signage that's not in the original contract. So we want it to be as final as possible before we cut a ribbon.
Well, I have to ask, just because I ran into someone this morning who asked me to ask, and I've been asked several times, and I was going to wait for the dedication story to actually write about this again. But I understand the mayor has actually addressed this on Facebook. I haven't seen it, but I understand. Everyone says that the monument is crooked. Have you heard that? So,
I'll tell you that Amanda Pollack, who had her own reservations about the monument.
Yes, she did.
She texted us the day that it went up and said, "Don't worry, it's not crooked. It's just from the angle, the perspective. It looks straight from one perspective, but there's multiple perspectives and multiple angles. So it is not crooked. It's not the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It's secured." And apparently folks noticed that on the plaza. I never noticed it. I'm always on a mission walking down the plaza, and I got married in front of that thing and never noticed. So, it's straight to me.
I should mention that you got married in front of that thing, and I grew up admiring that thing, but my peer group, because we were teenagers, we all mocked it and just thought it was really silly. But when you got married in front of that thing and you made it like a central part of the biggest day of your life, perhaps, that kind of said to me that something had changed in Salisbury, that there's people who want to be kind of tied to this thing and have their photo taken in front of it. My daughter had her prom pictures taken there, and I was like, oh my gosh, people actually respect this monument the way I have always respected it. It's not a big joke anymore. So what made you do that? I've never talked about this with you. I'd love to know why you thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, downtown Salisbury has been, a huge part of my life since I moved here. And I lived on the plaza. I've only worked downtown really as an adult. And it's a beautiful place. And we thought about different perspectives on the plaza, but needing that backdrop, and that it's an icon. And, people have their opinions one way or the other, but it's a beautiful piece of art, and I think it really shines in the new location. It has just totally transformed that intersection, and you know, we saw some sunset photos the first couple nights that it was up, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. So personally, you know, I was, you know, a little sad to see it go from the plaza, but where it is absolutely beautiful, and more people get to appreciate it every day, I think, now.
One of the things we learned in management is that when you get promoted, the first year you spend your time doing your old job the way you wanted to do it if you didn't have your boss breathing down your neck. So do you expect to have any situation like that, or do you finally feel free to do your job the way you always wanted to do it now? And that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do the job you've been promoted to do, not your old job the way you wanted to do it. So that's like a fault to do that, but it's tempting to be that way. Like when I became an editor, when I got promoted, I was like, I can edit everything now. No one has to read my stories anymore. You know, I can do whatever I want. And it was really the wrong way to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting time for me, because I'm in two roles still. You know, I'm filling in for the mayor, and I still have my job as city administrator. And we didn't add anybody to the team, so it's trying to figure out how to delegate as much as possible, so I can manage the new things that are on my plate, things like this that are happening much more, and constituent concerns. But it's a weird balance, you know, because the mayor has left me to make decisions, but also I need to remember what he wants and what he has committed to the community, and try to honor that the best I can. So you'll get some little flares from me here and there, I think, but try to do my best to keep him happy and proud.
It seemed like your first warm-up event was the announcement of a new scheme for the beer garden downtown. But then quickly, just a few weeks later, you were leading the renaming of Broad Street for Black Lives Matters. That was a huge event, big turnout, way more than I would have thought. People were really concerned about that and really showed up in droves. Just a great event. You want to talk about what things happened there?
Yeah, really, really proud of the community that showed up. And the last couple weeks in Salisbury, folks have been protesting and using their First Amendment right as they are free to do and should do, and wanting to make a statement and wanting to make sure that Salisbury is standing where in the right side of history, where we should be. And, you know, not saying that, you know, of course we never arrive, you know, we're always learning and growing. You know, we haven't had any major issues here in Salisbury, but that certainly doesn't mean we can't do internal, you know, review of how we feel personally and how we operate and act as an organization, and as community members. So I thought it was really important to make a statement as government, to say that Black Lives Matter. And of course, there are folks that don't agree, would like it in a different place, would have liked to talk about it more, all the things. And I understand all of that. But sometimes I think it's really important for government to act and act quickly. So that's what we did. And I think the location for me and for many is so perfect because of all of the history that's in that area, from the county courthouse where slaves were sold, and a generation later folks were murdered on that courthouse lawn, the Winder sign that came down a few weeks ago, to Route 50 ruining Georgetown neighborhood, the Chipman Cultural Center, which has been around for generations, the mural that we did last fall, and then our cemeteries that hold slaves and Union soldiers and were displaced when Route 50 came in. So there's just so much, and I really want to see a walking tour, a historical walking tour, doing all of that at some point when we can all be together and have fun. So you know, we wanted to add to that and make sure that segment of Salisbury was honored.
Well, a few years ago, when there was talk about doing something about putting a plaque up to memorialize where the lynching took place on the courthouse lawn, and there was talk about maybe we could put something up for Frederick Douglass because he had spoken at the courthouse at one point. And I'd ridden it on my bike, but I never walked it. I went to the old train station. I walked from there to the courthouse, past the Chipman Center, down Broad Street, the same route he would have taken when he came to Salisbury. So I was kind of trying to experience Salisbury the way he would have experienced it. Now, there was no Salisbury Parkway, there was no Route 50. But I think what you've done now with the Black Lives Matters Boulevard, it's created a definite corridor there where some history can be taught and felt.
Yeah, and that's such a cool experience that you did from the railroad station. That's awesome. I think more of us should do that. It is, we've got a huge piece of history, and there's so much more. I was reaching out to Linda Dwyer recently and talking about some classes that we could do internally and things like that, and just everything that she laid out. Whether there's not enough time in the day or we leave it out on purpose, and it's both. There's so much more in this community that we all need to learn. And so I'm excited to continue to move that ball forward, and hopefully folks do some of their own learning, and we'll provide opportunities to do that as well.
One of the big challenging issues right now is the Salisbury Police Department. There's a Civilian Task Force Commission being formed. I think the deadline for that is soon, but you've got plenty of people who have applied. I know Chief Duncan wants to get out there and articulate some vision in terms of rebuilding trust. It's a very difficult time, obviously. How are you feeling about the Salisbury Police Department and what needs to be done next? Irregardless, even separating from what's going on nationwide, but what's happened internally here in our town even before all this stuff happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a challenging 6 months for us. We've had a couple missteps, and we're trying to grow and learn from each of those. And it's an incredibly challenging time for police officers nationwide and here locally. And I've been attending every roll call meeting. Every time a new shift comes on, they've got roll call. And I've attended all of them this week and done a lot of listening, which I think is really important to understand how our officers feel right now. And I have been so overwhelmed by their hearts and them wanting to do the right thing, and feeling really appalled about what's happened in Minneapolis, and wanting to bring the community together and wanting to figure out how to solve big problems that aren't just Salisbury challenges. We've got huge systems that need to be looked at, working with the Department of Juvenile Services, social services, our mental health providers, the jail, all of these things, we all need to be working together better. And so hopefully that's what will come out of this criminal justice reform task force. It's not just looking at the Salisbury Police Department, because if we all just look at one singular unit, one silo, nothing's ever going to change. We've all got to come together and look holistically and talk to one another and learn from one another. So really excited about that, getting going. We're working out the details of what that's going to look like. And we said we were going to accept applications through the end of the month, but in the first 4 days, we got over 200 applications. So I closed it. So if folks do still want to get involved, I mean, we'll certainly take applications, but managing interviews and culling through information with 200 versus like 1,000, I mean, they're both going to be heavy lifts. So just wanting to make sure that we are, really intentional about who's on that committee and putting folks that are going to roll their sleeves up and get to work.
How did things happen for you? I mean, think about this. You're a sophomore, freshman, junior at Salisbury University, and like a decade later, you are, at a shift meeting at the Salisbury Police as the acting mayor of Salisbury. I mean, could you ever have imagined this for yourself, Julia?
No. As a freshman, as a sophomore, like many students, I thought, I'm gonna work on the Hill. I'm gonna be in DC in some big community, and then Jim Ireton took a hold of me as a sophomore, and I started an internship in the city. And from that moment, this community, I say it frequently, it wrapped its arms around me. And if you let it, this community will do that to you. I think I was 25 when I became the assistant city administrator, and 27 when I was the city administrator. And I think about that just in itself, and I'm sorry, my cat is going crazy back. But just that, I mean, it is wild to me, but I worked really hard, and I think I've developed a name for myself. People believe in me and trust me, and I'm working really hard to continue to build on that trust and make sure everybody's taken care of.
The city council has finished the budget. New budget goes into effect July 1. Certainly there are problems in the budget in terms of revenue. Just as an example, losing $30,000 a month on parking and things like that. But they did a very efficient budget, did it very fast. Do you feel good about the spending plan that they've left you with?
Well, I do. And certainly, like you mentioned, there are some revenue challenges that we're going to be facing this year. And those are unknowns still. Parking this last quarter, no income there, or not really any. Our highway user revenue funds, we've gotten letters from the state that we should anticipate a couple $100,000 in decrease in those over the next couple of years for this year and next year. And we don't know. COVID is still out there. It is not gone, and we will have additional costs that we have when it comes to PPE and medical expenses, and if staff get sick and have to pay overtime, it is going to be a challenge. And we kept the budget, intact for the most part this year. And we started putting that together before COVID, just because we don't know what's going to happen. And so we have reserves, and they're there for a reason. And so we'll utilize those if we need to, and we'll make changes going forward if necessary.
We love to talk about the tension between the city and the county all the time. I love to talk about it. I know you love to talk about it, but I have to say that when you were kind of in your initial period there with the mayor, and you guys were working on the fire services agreement with the county, one of the top county officials said to me, he said, "I have completely misjudged Julia Glanz. She is smarter than I ever imagined that she was. She can see these big problems. She sees right through them right away. She's not sidelined by a lot of the trees. I mean, she sees everything directly." Are you going to be able to apply that sort of brilliance in dealing with the county now? Because there's going to be so many big changes in leadership coming up in the county.
Yeah, I'm certainly really excited to work with John. We've gotten to know each other a lot better through the pandemic.
And this is John Pesota, who's the current city manager of Fruitland, who's coming in as the director of administration.
Yes, and just having conversations every couple of weeks on COVID-related things and how we're each addressing things. He seems like a really great guy, and I'm really excited, and he seems eager, and I think it's a great opportunity to continue to work together and hopefully work together better. There were challenges, of course, and we're not always going to agree. But I'm excited to be able to walk down the hall and have a conversation with him, and hopefully, get some good feedback right then and there.
So when you see tensions between the city and the county, did it take you a while to understand where that came from? Can you figure that out? What can you do to help fix that?
That is a very good question. We shouldn't have different interests for the most part, I don't think. I mean, we should all be able to see a problem and try our best to solve it together, because city residents are county residents. So I think that's really important to remember. And I know just as a municipality versus a county, just how we operate and what we need to think about are naturally different. But remembering that we're all residents of Wicomico County, and I think that needs to be at the forefront. But I'm hopeful that John is gonna understand that. I mean, he's coming from a municipality, so hopefully that stays in the front of his brain. I'm hopeful. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be great.
Is there anything you're really worried about?
I'm really worried about COVID. Looking across the country these last couple days, folks are not taking it seriously. And I know there is this need to, sort of open the economy. It never closed. It was always going. But, I understand that need of money in people's pockets, but, health and taking care of our folks is number one for me. And I've been, I think, really, cautious, and folks may disagree with that, but, our office staff, everybody that can work from home, is going to continue to work from home for this foreseeable future. And that has challenges, of course, like this interview, we're from home. But, I'm hoping that the choices that were made in Maryland are responsible. I believe they are, but it's up to individual folks, and we can't control that. And it's become such a political topic, and it doesn't need to be, and it shouldn't be. It's public health at its most basic level, and that's probably the biggest worry at the meantime.
People do judge a city by infrastructure improvements. So you have traffic circle opening soon. How are things going on West Main Street?
They're great. Every time I'm downtown, they're flying down faster and faster. So we knew that with the pandemic, that they'd be able to capitalize on folks not being downtown. So that has been sort of a good out of the ugly. But as they get closer to Mill Street, they get closer to the water table. So there will be, I'm sure, some unforeseen challenges there. But overall, they're making great progress, and it looks really, really good. It's really nice to see the infrastructure of the buildings with the trees out of the way. And I love trees, and I know there are some passionate folks about when we took the trees down. But the trees that are going in are great, and they'll grow quickly. But it's been cool just to walk down and look up and notice new things every time you walk down there. So they're moving. George and Lynch is a fantastic contractor.
Yeah, it looks like a city again. And when I was a kid and we used to go to the city to buy clothes and stuff, go to the big city of Salisbury, and you see men wearing suits and hats and women in dresses walking downtown. That was for a kid on the farm, that was just the greatest thing in the world, to go to the city. And also you could, the hillside, how West Main Street down to the bridge, how it's really a significant hill there. I've seen some photos lately that show that. And that's the Salisbury I remember as a kid. And I really love it. It's really making me happy.
Yeah, it is neat to, I wasn't around then. But looking back on photos from, when the trees were smaller, and it looks like now it's, sort of a blast from the past. And it's really cool to see.
Well, Judy Glanz, thank you for taking time to be with us. We look forward to your 5 o'clock call every day. It's on Facebook Live on the City of Salisbury's page. I encourage you to look at it. She's got great information. I feel like I know everything, and I find out stuff every day by watching it. And we're just thrilled that you're here at this crucial time for us and stepping up. And thank you so much.
You're welcome, Greg. Looking forward to the next 10 months, and I'm sure we'll be talking again.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper, another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.